What's going on, everyone? It's Adam and Craig with Grandstand Golf. This is our PGA DFS pick show for the 2021 AT&T Byron Nelson. Before we jump into that, Craig, let's just scoot back to when Rory McIlroy took home the Wells Fargo just a couple days ago. So our picks, 100 picks through 3 of 6 made the cut with 3 top 20s. Victor Hovland with a good finish at T3. Bryson DeChambeau with that classic superstar backdoor top 10 after making the cut on the number. But a couple of big guys missed the cut.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been nice if Jon Rahm would have made the cut on the number and then had a nice superstar backdoor top 10. But, them's the breaks.
Yeah. And we always say, drop in the comments, plant your flag, name your winner. Sean McNamara, got to shut him out from last week. He said, I got to go with my guy, Rory. He's coming off that birthday. It's a course he loves. He's best scoring average here. He planted his flag. Rory got the win, and Sean got the win. Good, nice pick there,
Yeah,
Sean.
for sure. What's he saying here? He's got to find something any day soon, and this is a soft landing spot for him. That was some sage, some good insight there for sure. He will find his form any day soon, and it is the perfect course for him to do it. So, everything came up Rory, which as a Rory fan, love to see. But on to TPC Craig Ranch.
TPC Craig Ranch. Before we get into that, make sure to hit that subscribe button if you're a new viewer here. Hit that like button. Follow us on Twitter at Grandstand Golf. We release kind of more things besides our videos there, so make sure to follow us at Grandstand Golf. But Craig, brand new venue. Let's talk about this. I said new course, who dis, TPC Craig Ranch strategies. You built this beautiful model that we use week in, week out. But the more data that we have for it, the more sample we have for it, the better it'll be. This week, we don't have that.
No, I mean, really, we have 2 Corn Ferry Tour Championship events from 2008 and 2012, before it was even called the Corn Ferry Tour. So, what are you looking at this week?
Okay, so what I'm looking at, I'm trying to narrow it in here from a couple things that I've heard. So first, I'm going stroke seam putting. I feel like, not just kind of quick recent form, but like are they good putters, historically, or are they getting better putters? I think that is key because I think it will be a birdie race. Birdie or better percentage is my second one. I tried to, get Colt Knost. He said, he's played here during one of those events. He was third here. He's on the ground with these guys. He said it's going to be one where guys go low, they can attack it. So I want birdie or better percentage in stroke seam putting because you need to convert those into birdies. I'm also going kind of the classic stroke seam approach. That's one of the ones that carries over week in, week out. If you're a good approach player, you're going to set yourself up for a lot of low scoring opportunities. A little bit of recent form, and then as always, I play that narrative street a little bit. I'm more for some local Texas ties. Are they from here? Did they go to school here? Is their wife's cousin's aunt, from here? I try to find one.
You want to go as deep as you can to find a tie. The one thing that I maybe pump the brakes just a touch on birdie or better percentage is. You get different types of events, so say a Quail Hollow last week, and you'll get some players who, maybe they have a much more restricted schedule and they play in majors and they play, they don't go to these tournaments that are regularly getting into the -20s. So it's one of those ones that if you are looking at it, you take the context into account. Is this someone who shows up every time it's a birdie fest, or are they playing all the courses?
And I think actually with this show, I'm not leaning on birdie or better percentage, but when we get into our sleepers, I'm looking at that a little bit more. So when can those guys go low if given the opportunity?
Do they thrive in that birdie fest type of?
Yeah, this one, all these guys can do that.
So the ones I'm looking at, Colt Knost had something out there. I think Ryan Palmer also had a good one. He said basically it's wide open. It is relatively long. So I was, instead of looking at tee to green, I don't think the around the green play is going to be super important. They're relatively large size greens. So I'm looking at ball striking, both off the tee and approach. Lump them together however you want. I think they're both important. So call it ball striking, and then stroke seam putting. I think that's going to be important. I think you need to be able to make putts. Obviously, though, that is one of the ones that can vary. Like we could have a Sergio Garcia who is not a good stroke seam putting, but he just has that week that he has a great putting week. So it is not necessarily the most predictive of what will happen this week, but it's definitely something to look at. And then in terms of driving, I'm favoring distance over accuracy. It sounds like it is fairly wide open, wide fairways. There's not a whole lot of ways to trick it up to grow rough or narrow it in any way. So definitely distance over accuracy.
Do you have a number in your head? I want these guys to be at least 295 off the tee.
No, it's just more when when I go to someone's PGA Tour site, you can kind of see they're maybe a top 50 guy in distance and they're 130th in accuracy versus being top 30 in accuracy and falling off in distance. I want those guys that skew distance over accuracy. Yeah. Obviously, if they're top 50 in both, that'd be ideal. But no, and then my other strategies this week, I'm not going to play 80% of anyone. So that I've decided that even if you feel very strongly, maybe I'll still temper it back to 50% max, we'll say.
A cool 60.
Yeah, nice cool 60%. And then last one, you said we said in the preview there might be a little bit of weather. You were saying that you might be digging it. It looks like there might be a bit of a wave advantage when it came to wind. My best lineups this past week were ones where I did stack the wind. I stacked one side of the field. So as we get tee times, as we get closer to, I'm definitely going to look to see if that's the case and then be stacking it if it is.
And just to dig into that a little bit more, Rory was from that stack. It was a 2-stroke stack advantage from the PM AM compared to the AM PM. So that 2-stroke is a huge advantage when you look at the entire field, especially when you start looking at sleepers. Is that enough to get them into the weekend?
For sure. And you know what? Hovland and Answer came from the wrong side of that. But it's not necessarily those types that I think it affects most. I mean, I think it does give, a slight bump or a slight bump down. But it is really like, how are you going to flesh out the rest of your lineup? That's where I care much more about the potential wind advantage.
Yeah, and so we're recording this Monday. We don't have the tee times yet, but that's just something to know. We will talk about on our Wednesday night live show. And also, you don't have to go 6-0 with a win advantage too. It's just something to keep in mind of if it's a 5-1, 4-2.
Choosing between two sleepers, give the one guy a bump.
Totally, exactly. Okay, with all that said, that's our strategy. Should we talk about the 3 guys we're picking? Okay, my first one here, I'm going Jordan Spieth, 11,000 on DraftKings. He's fourth on FanDuel as well, 11,800. He's just on an absolute tear. Like, I don't know how else to put it. I tried to give the stats that just show how well he's playing. So last 7 events, 28 rounds. He has 5 top 5s in his last 7 events, including a win at the Valero Texas Open. Of those 28 rounds, 25 have been positive strokes gained total. So that's 89, close to 90% of the time, he's at the field average or better. 17 rounds, he's over 3 strokes better than the field average. That's 61% of the time. He's 3 strokes better than the field average. Like, that's just remarkable how well he's playing. We know he's a volatile player, but he's been just he's been so high, his floor. It's absolutely incredible. And he still has like these 5 strokes gained total rounds, 6 strokes gained total rounds where he just laps the field almost. He's just playing so well. So, I mean, look at some of these stats that I kind of keyed in on. He's 10th in the PGA in birdie or better percentage at 25%. He's 11th in the field in strokes gained putting over the past 6 months at plus 0.64. And then here, I just put clear eyes, full hearts, can't lose, Texas forever. He's a Texas guy. He's a Dallas guy through and through. So I don't really know, what else to say about Jordan Spieth. He has played here before as well. He had Q School in 2012. So he has seen the course in a competitive standing. So it's just like, it's all pointing up. The only thing I can think of is ownership, but I'm just going to eat the chalk.
Yeah, see, that's so I'm going to struggle with Spieth this week. And really, it's going to come down to ownership because everything points to him being a good play. Like, on paper, it's a slam dunk, So if you're looking at him as a bet, say, where you're not playing against the field, you're playing against the number. I guess it depends on what the number is, but the thing that I struggle with is trying to anticipate how much ownership he's going to get. So, if he gets up to 30%, then do I still like him? Well, I'm going to have to look at all the people around him that aren't getting the ownership. But yeah, so that's the only thing that I'm going to struggle with on Spieth this week.
I guess one other thing I would add is it has been a little bit of gap since we've seen him. So like with such momentum, you almost wish that was like coming in from last week almost. So maybe he can cool off. But
do you want when you're talking about his last 7 events, do you count that momentum as heavily as if it had just been these, a few weeks
right? And
ago?
I don't think you can, but I don't really care that much.
Yeah. Okay, so my first one, I'm going to shock the world. I'm going with Jon Rahm. So it did not work out well for me last week. I took a big, heavy stance on Rahm, but I'm going right back there. He's 11,000 on DraftKings, third in pricing there, 12,200 on FanDuel, second in pricing there. Now, I should say, I think you just put a tweet out that Dustin Johnson has withdrawn. So
Yeah.
all of these ranks are including DJ.
Right,
Obviously some of them will bump up and some of them not in this case. But anyway, so Rahm, he has fallen from first in all of these stats to now being fourth in the last 3 months in terms of strokes gained total, averaging a paltry 1.96 strokes per round. But you still look at it 6 months, 12 months, 2 years. He's still first in all those, and by a fairly healthy margin. The longer term, I think you look at them. So, updating from last week, last 11 starts now, we've got a single miscut in there. He had gone 22 straight, but then he had a miscut. Still, we have 8 top 10s, 4 top 5s since last 11 starts. I still like the form. We spoke about this a little bit on our pod breaking down the Wells Fargo, but unpacking a little bit more what happened for Rahm last week. It was really a tale of 2 days. He came out and he was bad in basically all facets of the game on the first day. He was minus 4.16 strokes gained on the first day, and then he went a positive 2.94 on the second. Now, that positive 2.94 could have been even better, I think, because he played in the afternoon when the scoring average was 2.56 over, and he ended up under par. And he also tried to ram home the birdie on the 18th to make the to make the cut, and then he ended up 3-putting because he left himself with a little bit much. And I don't think he really cared a whole lot about his putt for par at that point. But
3 over, 4 over
doesn't really matter a whole lot for Rahm. But anyway, so I mean, essentially, it could have been a +5 strokes gain round there on Friday. But really, you look at what happened on Thursday. Yeah, he was slightly losing with his ball striking, but he lost 2.5 strokes around the green on Thursday. That is so very much not like Rahm. He's a strong player around the green. I think we speculated he is a new dad. Maybe he just kind of had a little bit of a back to pro golf snap adjustment. But I saw him walking off the 18th green on Friday. He did not look like someone who I would bet against the next week. He looked like someone who wanted to come out on a tear. And so I just, to me, if anything, I'm higher on him this week than I was last week. But as I said, my strategy is not to go 80% still. And last thing, so he played in the worst conditions on Friday. He had 16 of 18 greens in regulation. That is unreal. Yeah. So his ball striking is in a good place. It was just I'm putting Thursday down to a single day aberration, and I'm gonna be heavy on Rahm again this week.
If that happened on a Saturday, we wouldn't even think about it because it wouldn't come as a miscut, right? So golfers have those kind of days. He almost recovered and could have backdoored top 10 like Bryson
I'm
did.
Just giving him like the backdoor half a backdoor top 10.
Yeah. I do want to say, though, if you're not a podcast listener, the links are below. Check out the podcast. I try to put on, my 60 minutes cap. I hold Craig's feet to fire. I really question about these. I wasn't going to let him get off easy. I try to, make him
answer
reason why. I wanted answers. So go check that out if you haven't listened already. It's a good one. But yeah, I'm playing wrong.
It'll be interesting to see what happens with his ownership, I think, as well.
Yeah. Okay, my second pick here. Will Zalatoris, 9,700 on DraftKings. He's 8th on FanDuel. He's 10th, 11,000 even, just like Rahm, coming off a miscut. But let's look what Will Zalatoris does great. Last 6 months, he's second in strokes gained approach at just under 1 stroke. He's 53rd strokes gained putting at positive 0.13. The putting has been kind of his weakness throughout his entire life, really, his entire career. But it does seem to kind of continuously improve. So I don't say I'm going to put him down as a weak putter. I think he's above average and getting better and constantly improving. So that's what I like to see. And then, of course, he is positive in all strokes gained categories. So no real weakness at all across the board. But he was the second highest owned in the big GPPs last week. He was over 20%. He had a miscut. Everyone was kind of playing Zalatoris. Thought Zalatoris was going to get his first PGA win last week. Didn't happen. So looking back at his history as a professional golfer, what does he do after missed cuts? And this is digging a little bit because he doesn't have a lot. I said the last two, and you can see they're 2020 and 2019. But coming off his last miscut, he was T5 at the Sanderson Farms. I like that because that is a PGA event that we can reference, not just kind of Corn Ferry. We can go up and kind of dominate like he did. But then his one before that, we're going all the way back to 2019 now. He was T15 coming off his second to last miscut at the 2019 Corn Ferry Championship. Obviously, that's a pretty big field, pretty big event on the Corn Ferry Tour. So a T15 is a pretty strong result. He did move from California to Dallas, Texas. So it is a home game. He's just in I think the suburb kind of south adjacent to McKinney. So yeah, I like Zalatoris this week. It is kind of chalky going Spieth Zalatoris, but I think I'm going to start that way and get a little bit weird as we kind of go down into the sleepers and value picks.
I think that will be target. And that's the thing that I struggle with a little bit is how much, with him being such a DFS favorite last week, and then disappointing, how much ownership is going to leave him because he has the hometown narrative this week. So, it's kind of, there's definitely going to be ownership that is off him. Quail Hollow is supposed to be a good fit setup for him. I do like this as a course fit as well for him, but the ownership question is going to be there. I think likely he'll be in my pool, but it's just a matter of how much I'll commit to it.
I think it'll still maybe close over 20%. I think it'll still be high. Yeah.
Okay, my next one, I'm looking at Ryan Palmer, 9,100 on DraftKings, he's 13th, 10,500 on FanDuel, 15th there. So strokes gained total, I think you can make a good case that the long-term value is a slam dunk. Maybe not so much just the momentum coming into this week. He's not necessarily carrying the last 3 months as the reason to play him, but I don't think there's a huge detraction there. I think it's just really we haven't sort of seen him get high on leaderboards, but. You look at what are his strengths. So this is looking at Data Golf. You look at his profile for the calendar year 2021. He's gaining off the tee, on approach, and putting. Almost a half stroke off the tee and approach. That's exactly what I'm looking for. And then putting, if you're positive, basically, I think that's a slight plus to me. So I like that his strengths match what I'm looking for in the course. And then you look, so in terms of, he's been super consistent making cuts. His last missed cut was at the US Open, 13 starts since then. He has been 7 top 20s. So, maybe about half the time, just over half the time. And then 3 top 4s. All his top 10s have been right up near the top of the leaderboard. But he's done it fairly, at a fairly decent clip for 13 starts. Last thing, he is, he lives in a suburb of Dallas. I mean, Dallas is so freaking massive that half these guys live in a suburb of Dallas, I think. But anyways, he holds the course record at TPC Craig Ranch with a 61. He is the person who has some insights into the course and how it plays. So I think that's interesting. I think, maybe a slight bump that he's not going to be experiencing this for the first time in his practice rounds this week.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. I like Palmer. I've been playing Palmer a lot in 2021. He's usually been pretty successful. As you said there with his recent results, it's just it's going to be hard. I haven't really gone in depth at all price kind of areas, but the low 9s, high 8s into the 8s is a little bit, I'm not sure what to do with yet. And that's going to be kind of a factor of how much or if I play Palmer.
Yeah, the other thing about him is I give him, he's a north/west Texas boy, I think is where he's from. And so if it does get windy, he said that he likes the wind. So, even if he's on the wrong side of the waves, I would not bump him out of your lineups because he's someone who he desires the bad elements.
And I think that's a good point to make because when it does get up, if it does get up, even into the weekend, if it's there, surviving the cut's one thing, but we want these guys when we're spending 9,000 on them to excel through the weekend
and contend, even if the conditions are tough.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so 2 kind of pretty high price guys. My third one here, I'm going a little bit lower. Our sleepers are 75 and 100. So Talor Gooch here is my last one here, kind of just above that. He's 7,900 on DraftKings, 26th there on FanDuel. He's 9,900. He's 23rd there. So looking at how he has played over the last 6 months, this is from datagolf.com. He has 15th in strokes gained approach at just over half a stroke, 28th in strokes gained total at 0.40. So kind of right around his pricing, 26 pricing, 28 strokes gained total. So kind of right where he should be. 46 strokes gained putting, so plus 0.18. But this is what we're kind of talking about with stroke gain putting. You get these guys that are in good trends, like Corey Connors over the past few months, past couple dozen rounds has been trending up. But when you kind of like take a very, very big kind of sample size, how does it size up? Talor Gooch has been 4 straight years of positive strokes gained putting. Seems to be improving to that +2, +0.3 kind of area. So he's constantly improving, but he's building from a pretty strong foundation, I think. Look at how he does with scoring. 72nd on PGA Tour in birdie or better percentage. That's 21%. That's the entire PGA Tour, not just the field of 200 plus players. So still, I think he's pretty good there in the kind of the top third or so of the PGA Tour. And then he has played here as well. He has good memories advancing through Q School here at TPC Craig Ranch. So even if these guys have a couple rounds of competitive tournament golf under their belts here, I think that is a slight advantage. So I do like seeing that. But when we get into the range now with Gooch, if he's on the wrong side of the draw, he'll still be in my pool, but maybe I'll go from 25% owned down to 10% or down to 15%. He's now in this area where I got to adjust it to see, is he really going to get kind of smacked by the bad weather here?
Yeah, I do like the Gooch. If you look at that range on DraftKings, I do think it's a tough range. Like there's a lot of people there that I'm not super sold on, and I think Gooch has been one of the more consistent values in that range. I do like putting can vary so much. You look at it round to round or week to week, but this is one of those ones where you look at it over the course of 4 years, chances are better than not he's going to have a good putting week, which is ultimately that's what you hope for. You can't predict what is going to happen each round, but you can hope. It's more likely to happen if you have someone like Gooch.
Yet somehow we try to with our showdown videos, but call us crazy.
Okay, my last one here. I'm looking at Antoine Rozner, 7,600 on DraftKings, 32nd, and we don't actually have him on the FanDuel slate yet. So to be determined, I guess. I'm assuming FanDuel put him on there at some point. It'll be very interesting to see where he comes in price wise there. If you don't know about Antoine Rozner, he's a French. He's played Frenchman. He's played very well on the European Tour over the past, year and a half, I would say. But you look at his strokes gained total, Data Golf sort of averages, takes European stats and puts a little negative on them to equate them with PGA Tour stats. But last 3 months, he's 42nd in this field. 6 months, he comes up to 22nd. We include a couple of his wins in there at that point. And then 43rd, 69th, more longer term. But once we're starting to look at 2 years, he hadn't even, he was playing his way up from the Challenge Tour onto the European Tour at that point. So I do really think that you want to be looking more at the recent stuff with Rozner. So last 9 starts for him, a single missed cut. A very, very odd. I've been digging further and further into this. So he missed the cut at the Tenerife
Open when I picked him as my guy. I planted my flag.
I think he was the favorite
potentially. He doesn't miss.
Yeah, so he came out and he had just a stinker of a round. He had I think Data Golf had it sit down as a -10 strokes gain. So I dug and tried to figure out what happened in that round, but I couldn't really find anything. Essentially, he put up a 78 maybe on a resort course on a day that scoring should have been low. But, and that is so that it would be significantly dragging down his strokes gain totals, especially in the last 3 months. Sure. But in spite of that, I still like him. I think that there's value at 7,600. You look at his last 9 starts, 6 top 20s, 3 top 10s. He's got 2 wins in that time. I've been looking at Thomas Pieters as a potential pick here. He comes in at 8,600 on DraftKings. I'm like, man, like Rosner's beat him. I don't know the exact time, but you look at them and you're like, okay, maybe 2 out of 3, so it's like, why am I paying $1,000 more? I'm not necessarily going to totally fade Pieters this week, but I definitely like the value, I think, better at Rozner.
Might be closer to a toss-up,
yeah. But then you look at the European Tour stats. So this is 2020, the full season. How does he fit the profile of what we're looking for at this course? He does most of his work off the tee and on approach. So it's ball striking. He's 24th off the tee, 15th on approach. Gaining over a stroke combined when you look at those. around the green and putting, he is essentially neutral on both of those, but he obviously has had good putting weeks when you look at his wins. And then the last thing that I come to, so you look at his couple wins in the past little bit here, and then, so 2019, he was Challenge Tour, playing his way from there up onto the European Tour. He had 2 wins that year. So he's one of these guys that, we talk about this, there's guys that like are good at like consistently playing above average, and there's people who can win and like get really high on leaderboards, and he is definitely more the latter. When he plays well, he does seem to contend, and he is able to close out. Probably what most people know him for at this point is he beat Bryson DeChambeau in the only match we've seen him, or sorry, the only event we've seen him here in the or in North America was for the match play, and he beat Bryson there. So he definitely has game. I think he's going to be value at 7,600, and I think there could be potential real upside there.
Yeah, no, I agree. Someone I'm going to keep an eye out for sure. It's also Monday, so I want to see, if my birdies kind of hear whispers of him getting a little bit popular. I don't think so. I think European Tour guys, especially kind of first couple times coming over, they're not super popular, but I would be concerned if he kind of creeps into that 10 plus own percent, but I don't think he'll get there. And it's still way too early.
I think the wild card is because he has a couple wins where like sometimes we see guys come over and they have good form, but they haven't necessarily, it's not as obvious, whereas Rozner has a couple wins in the last, 6 months. And so it's like, oh, this guy is value here. But that's an unknown. We don't really know how the public will react to it.
Yeah, for sure. Those are our 6 picks for the Byron Nelson. Thank you, everybody, for watching. As always, leave your winner, leave your pick above 7,500 on DraftKings below. We'll give you that shout out if you get it, if you get that winner, or if you get a really good one. But what's our weekly scheduled tournament preview and first look? That's where we look at the entire tournament in kind of a holistic view. That's out now on our YouTube PGA DFS model. It's going to be a little bit different this week, but still have kind of the recent results and show scene data. That will be on our website. The links are below. Sleeper show will be coming soon. Live show Wednesday night, 9:30 p.m. Eastern. That's when we're going to talk more about the weather waves, if there's an advantage, where our ownership percentages are going to go
through the whole
what
slate.
Our player field looks like. Yeah. When we talk about all that, and then our DFS Showdown shows, we will go Thursday, Friday, Saturday with pre-recorded this week, but we will get them out to you guys every single night for those Showdown slates.
Yep.
All right. That's it. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Subscribe, hit that thumbs up, and good luck.
Yeah, good luck, guys. See you next time.